This is the most testosterone-filled room I have had on the podcast. So we are just going to kick it off with all the things. I felt like I had to wear a sports bra on this podcast to look as buff as Jason. So that's my goal, just to look like I'm super jacked as well. If you're listening to this and not watching it on YouTube, then you don't know what I'm talking about, and that's okay. But I want to just go around the room. If you guys don't know who these men are, we've got Jason, we've got John, we've got Jeff. I've obviously known y'all for a hot minute. So Jason, let's kick it off. Tell me a little bit about who you are, what you do.
All right. Jason Theobald. I have my hands in a few things. I own Scooby Health. We're a functional nutrition company, but also we do some prep and all that stuff too. So we really kind of hit the full gamut. I'm co-owner in New Ethics supplement company, co-owner in Advanced Vitality HRT, and co-owner in Caboodle, which is a CRM app, also diet builder, which should be really getting pushed here soon and coming to the forefront. But yeah, so I keep myself busy, and then I coach myself. So yeah.
Understatement of the year. Jason keeps himself busy. I haven't heard you say co-owner of Caboodle yet officially, but we actually just revamped one of our modules in FCA. So now everyone that I work with is going through Caboodle if they want to. So I'm loving that all-in-one system. So I'm stoked about that. Jeff Black, my dude, what's going on?
What's up, girl? How are you?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, it's a rad day out. It's good weather. Vibes are good. I hit a bowl before I got on here to be real.
Yeah, man. I've been at the beach all day, dude, smoking and chilling. So it's been nice.
Yeah, so it'll be good. It'll be a good conversation then for sure. Jason and I are our best when we're high. So
Right.
Am I the only one that doesn't smoke pot on this call?
Probably.
I don't.
Oh, good, John. Okay, all right. We got two and two. I don't care. It's just like I have realized at 31 years old that I'm like, it's weird that I have never been high. So that's my fun fact of the day, is that I have never been high. So
I waited until I was 33 before I got high for the first time in my life.
I got 2 years. Got it.
You have a window there. I own Iron House Strength and Conditioning in Nashville, Tennessee. I do in-person coaching. I do online coaching. I don't do the high-level stuff like Jason. I do like the mid-grade. I really like to help a lot of people kind of get going on their fitness journey. So because of my gym, I work with a lot of gym pop, a lot of average Joes and a lot of average Janes out there. Recently wrote a book that is going to be officially going through a summer launch, brittle2unbreakable.com. It's a story about my life with my brittle bone disease and how I got into bodybuilding and just kind of used, I don't know, maybe self-hatred as ultimate fuel to do good with it, and I think that was, I went real edgy. Everybody says it's like raw. That's like the one word I hear over and over and over. It's very raw. So that's cool. And other than that, I do a podcast with Jason, ATG Syndicate. I do the After Dark. We just had you in town, Taeler, and then we got John coming up here in the next couple months, probably. So I keep my hands a little busy, not as busy as Jason. I've had free time. I've gotten into shooting guns lately, so that's been an interesting hobby I picked up. But I don't know. I'm from Tennessee, so it makes sense, I guess. But anyway.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. We have a really good group here, really good gang. All right, John, hit me. Tell me a little bit about you.
First of all, I'm all proud of my nice little banner background and everything that I've got. But then Jeff logs on. He looks like the ultimate boss sitting there. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can just check out Jeff. I'm kind of jealous because
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, looks like he's about to call a hit out on somebody. Don't piss him off. So it looks awesome. A little bit about me. I'm a full-time diet coach. I own Team Gorman. I've been doing this since basically 2007, 2008 when I got into the business. I still coach people full-time. Actually just had my largest month with clients ever, which was really, really interesting. I'm sure we'll talk more about business here in just a little bit. And on the Fat Muscle Project podcast, you can see that behind me if you're watching on YouTube. It's a podcast. It's a supplement company. It's an apparel company. It's growing like crazy. So we've got our hands full with that. I also run Elite Physique University along with Jason here on the show and Kayla and the Fat Muscle Project podcast. I've got my hands in all kinds of stuff. I've written 4 books. I own 2 gyms that I ended up selling a few years ago. They're not as cool as Iron House. I always wish they were like Iron House, but they were 2 large Anytime Fitnesses. But I learned a ton with that. And then I do a lot of one-on-one coaching with people who just want to take their business to the next level or their physique enhancement as a coach to the next level. So hands full right now. A lot of new things coming up. I can't even, Jason, I told you what I'm working on behind the scenes as far as supplements and manufacturing, stuff like that. I can't really put that out at scale yet. And then we're also working on a possible retail store for Fat Muscle just down the road. So I don't mind to put that out since this is coming out this summer, but just hands everywhere, which everyone listening, Jason, Jeff, like you, Taeler, you coach people that are doing this stuff. Like you guys know, it's like we can't just ever leave well enough alone. We're all entrepreneurs that see life through a different lens, which is interesting.
I know. I'm like, when should I write a book? I don't want to do that yet, though. It's just not time. I need more life. I need more things to happen, we're just not there yet. But listening to this, I'm like, okay, well, I miss the supplement company bandwagon. So I'll just like hitch on to Jason if he needs any marketing help or something like that. But just kidding. But ultimately, I wanted to bring all of you on we were chatting before. There's just so much noise in the fitness coaching space. It is only getting more saturated. And I don't want that to hinder anyone from starting their business. And so I want this podcast to not only just provide, real perspective as to the realities of starting a business today, but I want you all to understand that like this shit's going to be hard. And so you're going to hear vulnerable moments from all of us, because I know so many of you listening, I mean, you probably know at least one, if not all three of these men. And you probably thought to yourselves, man, I wish I had a team of coaches like Jason does, or a gym like Jeff, or supplement company like John, whatever it is. And so I want to just bring that vulnerable moment for all of you to listen to as well, because I think that people look at us and they think that we just have it all figured out. Like we're never stressed, and that's hilarious. So I want to kick things off, and whoever wants to start this can, but over the last, let's say, few years, 2-3 years, what are some trends that you're noticing in the fitness coaching space with like where it's heading that you're not loving? Like, what are you noticing more new coaches doing or not doing based on like where you started? Because all three of you are phenomenal coaches.
Oh man, I think for me, from owning a gym and seeing in-person coaches and having a team at one point that I no longer have, I think what you're seeing is people taking things for granted, assuming that just because they're posting or doing things that they're going to get it. Therefore, they don't really kind of think about who they're trying to appeal to. It's just mass assault, whatever is a catchy topic that is clickbaity, that can kind of maybe evoke a firestorm of comments, seems to be the go-to. And what you're seeing is a lot of coaches really suffer now. I've seen the in-person brands, in-person trainers at my gym be like, man, it's getting a little bit tighter out there. I'm like, well, everything's up about 22% on average, which means they're going to restrict some areas. So some of these price tags coaches have to kind of come back down to market. We went to the whole prove your worth, respect your time, all these boundaries things. Price tags got way up there. But unless you're doing what Jason does, you have to ask yourself who you're wanting to work with, walk through a Publix or a Kroger, figure that out, and then assess your business plan according to that. I think what you're seeing is a correction of the market from people realizing it's not as easy as they think it is out there to just grab it when they want it.
I will say, as somebody that works with, new coaches every single day, the most challenging thing to just like beat in their head is that just because you did something 30 days in a row, you are not owed anything. Nobody cares how hard you work, right? And that's a hard thing to say, because you could be busting your ass and doing the wrong things, right? It's like stepping on stage. Like you're not center just because you dieted the hardest, and I think that's really challenging, because you see these coaches that are very successful in their personal lives and their fitness journeys, and they start a business and they're thinking to pick it up quickly. But Jason, what are you noticing with like the functional space? Like, I know you're blowing up.
Yeah. We actually kind of touched on it before this started, but I actually see it in a different way, talking about like the semaglutides and the GLP-1s. I still feel like everyone is still villainizing it because they're scared it's going to replace them. And most of the arguments are, oh, it's cheating, or it's just cutting down hunger. But there's a lot more medicinal effects of these drugs than just hunger. And I don't want this whole podcast to be about that, so I don't need to go off. But it is a trend that I see. It's like, hey, get educated about it, and then you might see a different side of this. And number two, you're going to have a lot of people coming to you already on it, and they need help. and they need help to learn how to eat right and train right and all these different things. So rather than just shunning it, because the fitness community is funny, right? You can take clenbuterol, you can take T3, hell, you can even take DNP, but heaven forbid you take a drug that resets your insulin sensitivity and lowers your cholesterol and pulls inflammation down. Oh my God, you're a cheater. I just think it's bullshit. Get educated first and then see. That's all. So that's a trend that I think is just funny to me, especially with how, you know, in the community, people will take whatever it takes to get the aesthetics, but now this one is off limits for some reason. So
yeah, absolutely. John, you got any trends that you're not loving in the coaching space?
Yeah, honestly, most of this revolves around social media. This is something to where I remember if we go back about 10 to 15 years, we saw it when we started seeing more evidence-based coaching pop up. And you would see a lot of people that are trying to become coaches. Now, all of a sudden, they were labeling themselves evidence-based coaches. And basically, what they did is they looked at some of the top coaches at the time that were putting out content and they just regurgitate it. And then they would go attack quote unquote bros, right? So we saw that at scale. You guys, you probably remember that 10 to 15 years ago. If you were doing anything that wasn't proven by research, you were basically wrong or you're fucking people up. That's what we saw back then. What I'm now starting to see is kind of the same trend, except it's now we're seeing people on social come out and they're trying to build a following and build a client base based on calling people out and basically trying to make a living by proving some of the stuff that's being put out there is wrong. So they're trying to get all these eyeballs on there when they're basically just great at debating, or they're just trying to cause, somebody said firestorm earlier. They're trying to get all these people to come look at them because they're saying, hey, XYZ is completely wrong. You shouldn't be doing this. And they're trying to educate people that way. What I can tell everyone here, you can't grow a business off of that because you're not, first of all, you've got to be great as a coach to be able to build a business. But getting those kind of eyeballs on you, that's just a lot of toxic eyeballs. They're not going to stick around. That's not a client base that's going to work. So anyone that thinks that you can build the biggest building in town by trying to knock all the other ones down, you're completely wrong. It's just, I see that at scale with social media now more than ever, and it's just a negative environment. So for all of our coaches listening, if you're trying to build a business and a brand, that's not the way to do it. I'm telling you, you can get some eyeballs on you because everyone wants to see the car crash when they drive by, but that's not sustainable. It's something I'm just seeing a lot of.
What would you say is the most underrated piece of advice for coaches like scaling their businesses? And this could be beginner level, or this could be, you know, exceeding past six figures. I don't really care, but what's the most underrated piece of advice that you hear?
I mean, for me, I feel like people want to rush this. I've been at this since 2007, like John, and every year I've gotten a little better. My business has been more and more profitable, but like, I didn't just snap my fingers and get to where I'm at or be able to charge what I charge, or because I can do that because of the knowledge and the broad cases I can work. I think people are trying to get there and rush everything, and it's taken the joy away from some of it. Not that getting there wasn't stressful enough, but then like if you put all this pressure on it to happen so fast, it seems like that's where people are and they're frantic about it. And I just didn't have to rush it, but I also kept a day job. So
I openly say that. I had
Right.
4 part-time jobs all the way up until I was making close to $500,000 a year, honestly, because I was so afraid to let that stability, quote, quote, go. Yes, my business was stable, but I think we all know listening to this and in this room, like, we're also trying to be responsible. And when I started my business, I didn't have a savings. I didn't have anything to fall back on. And so my part-time jobs probably totaled close to 50 hours a week. I mean, I was working a ton of hours, but I think that people forget how much sacrifice is required up front. Like, everyone wants the weekends off immediately, and that's just so not going to happen. You know, that's so not, this whole like work-life balance, to me, that's overrated in my opinion. But
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just now getting my weekends off, but I still have to get on Sunday night, or else I'm going to have, 20 emails I got to dig through before my 40 kick in Monday morning. So there's no real off, but like, it's taken me a while to earn where I can not really work on a Saturday morning. I mean, I did that for, probably just till the last 2 years. So yeah, I mean, it's, but again, I think I just I guess what I'm trying to say is don't rush it. Like it can't be rushed. You've got to have your education piece there, all your foundations there. It can't be rushed. And I think people are rushing it because that's the kind of DMs I get. And it just seems like people are rushing it.
Yeah. So any other overrated is also welcome too. Underrated or overrated pieces of advice for coaches growing, starting?
I think underrated for me would be self-awareness in terms of their monetary value in the market. Meaning there's a difference between charging $100 a month and there's a difference between charging $1,000 a month. The answer probably lies maybe more in that 250 to 450 range, depending upon what you're doing. But I will tell you this, I pick off clients left and right in my city of Nashville because downtown trainers somehow think that someone's going to pay them $3,000 for 3 times a week training a month and not even include nutrition. And I'm like, well, cool, I'll do it for $695 or something. And they'll stay with me forever because it's more like accepting a car payment. If people can accept something that's reasonably budgeted into their budget and it's at a good value and you keep providing that, you're going to retain them. And I think that's an undervalued piece that most people don't understand is their self-awareness. Like truly fucking evaluate yourself correctly. You can be all these things, have all these certs, but if you've only got 10 clients and you're charging $650 a month, there might be a reason for that.
And it's longevity too, right? Because here's the thing, if you are on the newer side, and I know there's a lot of business coaches out there that promote like 4-figure monthly investments and things like that for some basic macro coaching or 4-figure down payments. And the average person is likely not going to do that, right? Now, I'm all for charging more than $100 a month, of course, but if you can have somebody that pays you $300 a month and stays for 3 years versus $600 a month for 6 months, I'm going to take the 3 years at $300 like any day, right? I mean, you've got to build your chops. Like, I really do think that we hear, Hormozy tell us to charge more. I'm just making that up, right? And then we're like, I got to charge more because he told me to, right? So it's like understanding like where you fit in. And also not charging too little, but you've got to get like 10, 20, 30 reps in of just like getting people to go through a contract cycle before you can really start to crank up rates, in my opinion.
Something else.
John hasn't had a chance, so if John wants to go.
I just wanted to piggyback on this for a second. First of all, if you guys are watching YouTube and you're listening to all these experts out there, that can actually become overwhelming. Nothing against Hormozy, never met the guy. I can't watch his stuff. It stresses me the fuck out because he just goes so fast. And I feel like it's just so broad. It's probably good for somebody, but for me, I find myself getting stressed out. So make sure you don't stress yourself out by listening to 20 different experts is what I'm trying to say. There's definitely people in the field. I think something that's underrated is overrated then to underrated. Overrated is going all in on social media, going all in on DMs. Like there's times and everything for that. But for people that are trying to grow their client base, the number one thing that people don't do, and it drives me absolutely crazy, the first thing I fix with anybody one-on-one is I make them understand over-the-top customer service. You have to go above and beyond for your current clients and get them such great results that they are going to spread the word of mouth for you. Jeff, I'm sure your gym, it's a ton of word of mouth. Jason, we both know our businesses, dude. It's literally word of mouth. Like we get people shredded. We take good care of them. We're good to them. We'll answer emails on the weekend, whatever it takes, and they will go spread the word for us. And we're all going to get emails this week say, hey, your mom and daughter clients that just competed last weekend, they told me that you were great. So boom, it's all word of mouth. Like that's how you grow your business. Yet people want to spend all their time on social in people's DMs, like trying to make the perfect reel and the perfect post, but they're not tripling down on the one thing they have. And that's their current client base, which will grow everything at scale way faster. So that to me is overrated as social media. Underrated is tripling down on your current clients. Like we all see a picture of Mary posted and she lost 10 pounds, but it's just an okay transformation. Like that's not the stuff that's going to drive your business. You've got to make it super impressive. And then all Mary's friends are asking her, hey, what the hell did you do to look like this? And she's like, let me tell you about John. That's the goal. That to me is the underrated portion people don't triple down on.
You guys are consulting with coaches about like having to do this stuff. To me, it's like, get out there and fire it up and just hit it. Like hit it in all areas. Like talk to your people in your grocery stores. That's what I made a joke about when I did 75 hard and got into phase 3, you have to like talk to strangers every day. I just went to the grocery store and be like, what do y'all think is a personal trainer? And the answers are wild. And nobody has a clue that John does what John does or Jason does what I do or anything like that. So I tell everybody, to much to what John just said, you spend a lot of time making this high level education and you have a bunch of coaches commenting on your post. Say it louder for people in the back. I'm like, but yet nobody you want to appeal to is commenting on your post or even engaging with it.
Yeah.
That's what I see as a problem in the industry. It's like hype team. It's like, okay, that's great. You like it, but I don't want you. I want that person to comment.
I think people like, go ahead, Jason, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say this, as in building a team, I think I've gotten really good at picking coaches who can be really great. And I think I've had some, times where I didn't. And in evaluating that, what I can tell you is this. There's little barrier to entry to being a coach, and it is an amazing, amazing fucking job. So I understand why so many people want to do it. But if you can't lead yourself yet, you can't lead others, and you are not going to build a business. That will shine fucking through on all your shit from your call with the person. They will be like, no, you have to be able to lead yourself. So if your life is a shit show, I'm sorry, your business probably isn't going to grow right now because people aren't going to trust you. So you have to learn to self-govern yourself before you're going to really be an amazing coach. And that's just something, honestly, it just came easy for me. I've always been disciplined. I've always tried to do, invest early. I've just always been kind of that way. But if you can't lead yourself and everything is all over the fucking place, it's going to be really hard to get people to trust your leadership and hire you. So
I think the same thing is true with sales skills, right? Because, so many people are so just turned off by sales, right? And I bring this up because I know that, John brought up the DM thing, right? Obviously, you all know that I talk about the DMs constantly, right? And I think that getting into the coaching space 10, 15 years ago is a very different ball game than it is today. There's absolutely no way you're going to start a business and not DM people. People take it far, though, in the sense that they think they can't talk to real humans and they hide behind a cell phone, right? The amount of volume, in my opinion, that's needed now is way more than 15 years ago, right? Like you've got to double down in person, double down in the DMs. Like I think it's a full circle kind of like, it's just interesting watching that because like I said, I know Jason will tell you like, I don't DM people and he doesn't need to because he's got an influx of people coming in. And so I will tell you, I actually made a post about this like 2 days ago where it's something like, I don't want to DM because coach I look up to never had to. It's like, okay, cool. But like you're comparing a 2010 business that started versus a 2023, like those are not the same things, And so what I find is people are so nervous to talk to people. And I brought up sales because the people that suck at sales, hate sales, they're also awful communicators, right? Like if you're good at selling, your relationships are better. You're not passive aggressive. Like I just think that is so underrated as like sales skills, or we're so hyper fixated on these scripts. I've never given my clients scripts ever. I do not operate on scripts. It's very much a like, I don't know, it's too robotic for me. And I know that's probably controversial as a business coach saying that, but I don't operate on scripts. So, you brought up, Jason, assistant coaches, right? And so I think that's important to bring up because I see coaches hiring ACs so early, like they can't fill their roster and they're bringing on assistant coaches. Like, can you talk about just like when to do that potentially and kind of how to bring them on?
Yeah. And I think this goes back to when I said people want to grow super fast and they see these things and they think they need it or have to have it. I don't think I had my first assistant coach until I was making about $350K, and this was probably in today's world is about $500K because that was like probably 7 years ago, something like that. So you have to have a good amount of volume, and you don't want to bring someone on and you can't at least give them some leads. Now, I don't believe that it is my job to give you all your leads. Some coaches are different. Some teams are different. However, other teams take way more. I take 30%. Other teams take 60%. So maybe they do feed the lead. I don't believe it's my job to fully feed you a lead, but that's why I'm looking for leaders as well. So I do things a little different than what is taught or either what is going on in the marketplace. But I think that you do need to have an overflow, and you yourself should be the point where you can't take more. Like if you're at 80 and that's all your brain can do, and you're like, I can't do this and give a good service, but you have all these people coming in, well, shit, you should bring someone on and still make a cut of that. And there's someone who would be happy to do that for you. So I think that that's probably a good time. It doesn't have to be that figure, but if you're doing 60K a year, you are not ready for assistant coach. You know what I mean? Like you can certainly work harder and you keep those people. That's my opinion.
So I want Jeff or John to just give me feedback on this. And I know some of my clients are going to hear this and probably roll their eyes when I say this, but the amount of coaches I talk to that tell me that their max capacity is 30 people.
Online.
You're in the wrong business then.
Yep. 30 people. They can't do more than that. That's it. But they want a multi 6-figure business, but 30 is it.
Jeff.
I don't know. To me, I think this comes back to our industry. It has a very real interesting form of self-awareness where they think that their boundaries and everything is very, very special. And if you feel you can make that money on 30 clients, good fucking luck. I don't know if that's possible for the other 99.9999999.
Like I'm talking people with 50 clients doing check-ins 5 days a week. They think that's the most efficient way. I can't do more than 10 check-ins in one day.
Well, that's just some weak stuff right there. And that's just them not understanding that in order to scale, these cases eventually get harder. You're going to have people that come through at times, sometimes you get slammed and have like 20% of your clients are emotionally draining. And you have to like look at the check-ins to figure out which one you want to get first before you know that you might get the sad one. You're like, shit, this one might be sad.
I mean, I do that all the time. I'm like, these are easy. These guys do their shit. I'm just gonna get taken.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like
Jason sends me my feedback pretty quickly, so I don't think
you're
I'm
one
one
of
of
the people
those.
that I know gonna do your shit.
Yeah, like Jason said, I get his feedback by like 7 a.m. It's crazy, but the whole point of that is people just don't kind of get all this, and I feel like I'm just the business coaching, the whole rush to 10K, all these things. I sucked. I've been in this industry since 2005. I didn't get to the 10K mark till like 10 years in. I think I might have been year 11. And that's because I did a lot of in-person training. So I think that there's no right or wrong way to do your model. It's a matter of what you want to do. Like I probably work 25 hours a week total, and I have 85 clients. I'm very happy there. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it's just finding what you want to have time to. There's a lot of questions, but 30 people, 5 a day, that's just stupid. It's not efficient. You're going to bury yourself with other things. Set up a theme day, listen to your coach Taeler, model other coaches, but that way is inefficient. And inefficiency kills all businesses over time. That's undefeated.
I can actually give some real quick numbers. I don't mind this at all. So today is a Thursday. It's one of my check-in days. I do check-ins on Mondays and Thursdays with all my clients. I got in here to my office about 11 o'clock, had a bunch of other fat muscle stuff going on, but I got all my emails and check-ins done in 4 hours. And I've got about 80 clients is what I keep. And that allows me to run all the other business stuff I do. And I can do those check-ins all 80 every Monday and every Thursday. And that keeps me totally ingrained. And then I've got all my other days to work on all my other stuff. Or if new clients come on, I can write new plans, all that stuff, right? If I can handle 80 people doing check-ins, and people are like, well, John, you've been doing this for like your old man Gorman. You've been doing this since 2007. Yeah, I'm efficient because it takes time to learn that. But I'm sorry, like you need to be under the pressure, under the gun of having so many clients. You feel like you're overwhelmed because that's going to force you to learn how to create systems. It's just one of those things, people that don't want to work. If you're not hungry to be buried and do the work, how are you going to grow? Like you're not hungry to keep pushing things to the next level. So it's, those people are just never going to make it. Unfortunately, people like us are just going to eat them alive because I'm going to get an email here in 30 minutes from somebody say, hey, what are your rates? And I'm going to reply to them within an hour because I'm sitting here working, where those other people are overwhelmed by 5 or 10 client check-ins a day. So those people just never make it. And unfortunately they just don't, but they don't get it.
That the one thing I bring up is what's this thing now where people take 2 and 3 and 4 days to respond to emails about business proposals. I've moved on if I haven't heard from you in 24 hours.
Oh yeah.
You know, like when people like will hit you up for business or something like that, you'll be like, oh yeah, let's chat. And then like 1 day will go by, 2 days will go by, 3 days will go by, and then suddenly you'll hear from them. I'm like, how do you expect to grow a business like that? Like,
I mean, I tell all of my clients, that's confusing. That's confusing. Like, yeah, if I say the same thing with DMs, right? Because again, different time, I totally understand, like you guys are not DMing, but any of my coaches, if they're like, oh, well, I'm in the DMs like every other day, I'm like, get your ass in the fucking DMs, because if they're looking at you, they're looking at other coaches too. And if you're the one that responds faster, right? I mean, imagine how much you're going to know somebody if you're going on a date and like day one, you say, what's up? Day two, you say nothing. Like you're never going to get that conversation building. So I agree. I want to pivot the conversation a little bit to personal and chat about just traumatic things that might happen, grief, hard mental health days. I would love for one of you to just name a time that something maybe traumatic happened and how you navigated business. Because I know that's really hard. It's easy to clock in for work and check out. You can't really do that running a business the same way. So if anyone wants to volunteer and share something.
I mean, I recently just, had shingles in February. So that's stress. That's overworking, that affects your immune system. And so that was a big wake up call for me. I already kind of knew, I really had never really, I honestly experienced burnout till probably December 2023. It was a long year. I had to really take tough evaluation of where I was, where I wanted things to be. And I was pretty much working nonstop. If a client wanted help, I just took it because I knew I could fix them. And there was really no in my vocabulary. And I'm not even gonna tell you how many clients I had, but it was a lot. And I'm able to do it because I'm efficient. I've done this for years. But you still can't get the personal touch. And at this end of the day, just because you can fix them doesn't mean you take everyone. And so anyways, it started to attack my health. But I had already hired a head coach. I had already given a big role to Aria as our director of happiness. And so I was already starting to realize that I needed help. She also started taking over Scooby U, which I didn't talk about in my intro, but I do a course in functional nutrition and help coaches with these tough cases. So it took a lot of things off my plate. And then I started not taking new clients unless they were the hardest cases and wanted to pay that fee. And so most people then will work with one of my coaches instead of me. And it has allowed my roster to dwindle down, which has given me 2 days a week to just do meetings, meet with people, bring in new business for my other businesses. And it's been awesome. My weekends aren't as bad anymore either. And so it forced me to, luckily I'd already start to put the pieces in place, but it was kind of the wake up call to say, you're doing the right thing. And I believe it probably happened as my body started to calm down. My immune system was no longer in overdrive, and boom, that shingles was probably sitting there for a while, and my immune system chilled as I chilled, and then I think I got it. And so that was a wake up, and I redistributed everything. I'm much happier. I still travel a lot, and I'm still probably got more anxiety and stress than I need, but I'm working on it and heading in the right direction. So you got to listen to your body, just like I tell my clients, and obviously I push myself too hard.
Yeah. Yeah, those signs and symptoms of burnout are super helpful. Jeff, I know you have thoughts on this. I know you're very fluent with this stuff, but the amount of clients that I work with that truly, I mean, especially in the last 2 years, I feel like I've just had so many clients on antidepressants, on anxiety medication, and just they go through these spells with like, a week or two, or even months at a time where they just can't seem to show up for themselves. I know you've experienced things like that. So I'm just, how did you navigate maybe moments of that, or what advice do you have for people that are going through that?
Man, I don't know. I'm probably gonna give you the worst answer ever, Taeler, because I just am that guy. You all know I hurt my back, my hip. I've been going through all stuff. But for me, I was just happy to be able to get out of my house and go to work. So I don't really have too much anxiety in my life. Jay hangs around me a lot. I keep it I'm pretty good on the anxiety thing. Do I get a little depressed and things like that? Sure. But I think that's normal as a business owner because you start thinking about the weight of all the other people you have to have on your back. Like it's no longer about me and my life. I'm okay. I could liquidate shit and go live in a 2-bedroom apartment, happy as hell tomorrow and be okay for it. But it's knowing that other people's ride or die on my decisions really changed the perspective, you know. And the quick thing was this: my business partner got diagnosed at 37 with pancreatic cancer the day after Thanksgiving in 2017. Jay knows because him and I are close. I had to go through a bitter battle with his widow to get the stock shares even given to me. I had to pay off a $120,000 note in under 30 months, including when COVID hit. So you just got to be willing to show up every day. And a lot of it's just, you know what? You're going to get a voice in your head. I saw this clip of Tom Brady not long ago. And he says, you got to say, fuck your tired voice. And you just got to still do it. And that's a big thing. And I think sometimes we've gotten a culture now, with all due respect to everyone's mental health. I'm a big advocate for it. You can read my book, shameless plug, but fuck your shit. Sometimes you just got to go forward and nobody cares.
Yeah,
And
no one cares. I didn't tell anyone I had shingles except my close friends. I showed up every day to work. None of my clients fucking knew unless they were like really close clients.
You know, and it was weird when Clint got me into the industry training people in 2005. He's like, bro, you got to wear pajamas to work every day. What better job is there than that? And I just was like, man, that's so true. You know what I mean? And people are paying you to be there to help them. Why are you so damn sad? What's so fucked about your job?
Yep.
I see clients that get injured. Sorry, I see clients that get injured or they lose a loved one, and all of losing somebody is really hard. I will never say it's not, but I mean, that'll send them into a 3-month stint of just not being productive. And it's like, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't relate to that. I think all of you on this call are probably similar to me, where we don't really stay down very long, you know?
Well, I just lost my dad like 12 days ago. So I can speak to this. You know, he was a big part of my life, really helped in many ways, shape me. He wouldn't want me to not show up. Like, that's not even an option. Like, I make commitments. Like Jeff said, people are riding on me. I mean, on every business of mine now, people are, you know, expecting me to show up. Like it's not even an option. There wasn't one day where I didn't show up for my clients. There was a few obligations I had that week that I just said, hey, can I move them? And I moved them. I think you're, teaching your group, Taeler, was one of them, but I showed up and got it done the next week. Everyone grieves different, but at the same time, like, it's not that I'm not grieving, but you show up, like you show up for yourself. Like, that's it. Like, that's part of, but do you remember when I said earlier, you got to be able to lead yourself? If you're checking out for 3 months, you're not able to lead yourself. So you can't lead others. So you are not ready to even be a coach. Coaches lead, but they got to lead themselves.
Yep, absolutely. John, I have a question for you, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I remember you chatting about your kind of like growth to 7 figures and being a little non-traditional because you've got multiple things involved. But let's say we're talking to coaches that are scaling to 7 figures or trying to get to that spot with their coaching business. Like, what mistakes are you seeing most with, like, once they've hit 6 figures? Like, what are the mistakes that they're making? What's preventing them from getting there? It might be strategy. It might be something different.
So what's keeping them from getting from 6 figures to 7 figures,
Yep.
even if they've got a good blueprint down and everything? Well, obviously time, which we all know, right? But I think the number one thing that people don't realize, and this is what Jason and I have both realized, because our models are pretty much the same, even though it wasn't ever planned from the beginning this way, it just kind of happened. And this is what I presented on at Hybrid Health Summit. Once you make it to 6 figures, or once you put in a lot of time, right? Maybe you're making 80,000 a year. It doesn't matter. Once you spend all these years helping so many people for years and years and years, what happens is now when you go to do the next thing, maybe you open your own private studio to train people, or you buy your own gym, or you start a supplement company. Now you've got a backlog of 10 years of helping people, answering DMs, putting out podcasts, whatever it is you're doing to help people, right? Plus your clients, those people are going to now come support your new venture. And that to me is the fastest way to get from 6 figures as a coach. If I were going to try and make it to 7 figures just as a coach, it would be such an uphill battle because you have to have other assistant coaches. You've got to have so much volume. It's a lot easier to be able to stay a coach yourself and now launch the next thing, a supplement company or your own gym or 2 gyms. Really, 2 gyms would be ideal to make it to 7 figures. But it's that backlog of people that you've helped over time. And people try to skip over that step. They don't realize you've got to help people and be in this for the long haul. Think about LeBron James. People see him like he was right out of high school. He was amazing, right? They don't see from the time he was 8 to 18, all the shit he's doing behind the scenes, scraped up knees, busting his ass, showing up to practice every single day, day in, day out, traveling everywhere. But they see the end result. They don't see the 10 years from 8 to 18. And that's what coaches need to understand. You're a fucking year or two in and you're making 60 to 80K and you're feeling good. Great. Now don't fucking quit, because the next day something's going to happen. It could be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. And you're going to get these opportunities. You're going to meet people at conferences. You're going to meet a Jason or a Jeff or a Taeler. I sent people your way to hire you for coaching, right? The master's group. All those things happen because you put it in the time and you don't quit. So that's the number one thing I see people messing up. They don't realize what's just around the corner.
I do. Yeah. I always tell my clients, like, stop quitting 5 minutes before the miracle. I think that's so true. The other thing that I see frequently is just to make this as simple as possible, regardless of how you want to get there, whether it's assistant coaches, adding another business, whatever it is, we think that once we hit this level, whatever this is, that we can kind of slow down this stuff and get here. You have to do the same thing, but better and more, and then add the next thing, right? That's the hardest part. That's one thing that I notice. Or people get lazy and cheap with investing in people in their business. Like they hire the cheapest VA, the best friend can do the DMs. And I start to see that the more money you make, the more scarcity I notice. And the people that are truly running 7-figure, 8-figure businesses are making way bigger risks or taking way bigger risks, right? Like they're now 6-figure decisions, not 10K decisions. And I think you have to be able to stomach that. If you don't have a tolerance for risk, you're fucked. I think that's Jason, you have any thoughts on that? Because obviously you were 7-figure plus. So like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I can say that I've not been afraid to take risks. The first time we formulated Slintraw, we were young, my ex-wife and I, and, I think we had I know it doesn't sound like much now and John's going to laugh, but it was 20 grand to buy these 1,000 bottles of this Slintraw. And that was 15 years ago. And we had some savings. We've always done well, but like, it was a pretty good chunk of it. And I didn't know if the shit was going to sell. And, it was a good amount of what we had tucked away. And the product went on to sell over $1 million, and we never once advertised it. So you always got to bet on yourself. Like I've always bet on myself. I paid for law school by investing in the stock market, and I didn't have to take a dime out. But I put that back into myself. So I think you got to look at it as investing back in yourself. I'd rather bet on me than someone else. So I think that's the way you got to look at it. But I will say this, there's been times in Scooby Health that I probably should have hired people sooner. I can look back and say that. I think it would have made my life easier. I think although every year on my own, I was able to do this with profits, I think once you get that brand awareness, had I thrown more on the fire, I think it would have done this instead of this, because now we're starting to do this as I've put more money out to bring in amazing talent. So it is sometimes tough in the gut to do it, but I would say look at it as betting on yourself. I'd rather bet on me than anyone else.
Can I add something to that real quick?
Mm-hmm.
I would want to point out that calculated risk is a very important thing to consider. So, Jason, when you launched Slintraw, you already had a bunch of clients that were going to buy it, right? A bunch of us on the message boards were already piecing together, different pieces trying to get the ultimate GDA. You just went and created it. You all put it in one, and like it was ahead of its time, but you already had people that were ready to buy it. People listening, they're probably thinking, well, shit, I should just go start a supplement company, or I should just go start with the one product. They don't have anybody to buy it. So they're trying to figure it out from scratch. Like, so calculated risk, in my opinion, is super, super important. I mean, it's the same thing. Like whenever we launched Fat Muscle as a supplement company, it didn't even feel like a risk to me, because I knew, I'm like, shit, I've got people to buy it. I've got gyms, like I've got all those things. It just happened to blow up, but it was a calculated risk. I'm not a big fan of just throwing caution to the wind, and none of us are saying that. No. But it goes back to what I said about time. We've all put our time in, and then boom, calculated risk. Jason's HRT clinic. I mean, shit, I can't tell you how many people I have going there. Think about me having all these people that need to go there. Well, Jason's done this for so long. It was a super calculated risk. One of the best decisions, Jason, I think you've ever made. Yep. But if you would have started that in 2010, one, it wouldn't have been time. But think about all these people that you've helped for the last 10 to 15 years. Right. Plus, we're all old now. We all need freaking TRT. Yeah. So, I mean, exactly. It's a calculated risk. It makes sense.
100%. Yeah. And I think the way you phrase that is perfect. They've all been calculated, and they've all had a support system. And I think what you're really talking about is network. I think, I'll see people come to our seminars, and man, all of us have put on seminars. I've put on them with John. I've put them on with Jeff. We've all put them on together. Taylor's been with us. I see some people sitting, they should be applauded that they're there, but they don't get out of their shell and meet people. And that is so important. Like, I always try to shake new hands. I met Jeff backstage at Junior Nationals in 2009. I met 2010. And then I met John on message boards, like literally just helping each other. And then I helped John get lean. And like, so build your network as you go along. That coaching can be very, very isolating. So when you do get a chance to get out, or even in the DMs, build your network of people. And you do that by just giving help and free advice. Jeff gave me a Snickers. I helped John with a lot of stuff before he ever hired me. And, it's just how it works. So that what John's saying is basically build your network.
I mean,
go
ahead.
I was just going to say something else too. Sometimes what we do as entrepreneurs, sometimes it can get extremely lonely. And I can tell you guys right now,
very much so,
this podcast, I've been looking forward to it for a while, because whenever we go home, we don't have other people to talk to that see life through the same lens we do as entrepreneurs and coaches and stuff like that. Not everyone has family that wants to hear about that, and you're so excited. So I think it's so important to go to events and to listen to podcasts, and at least try and make those connections and learn from other people like that, because it can be very lonely. To me, honestly, it's the hardest part of this whole thing. Like Jason knows, like I'm always trying to get us all together for something. Like the conferences I love, because we're all under one roof, and it's like that's some shot in the arm for a little bit, and then 4 or 5 months go by and I start finding myself being depressed, because you just don't get that in daily life. So the more people you can be around like you, the better, is what I was trying to say.
100%.
And the bigger you grow, like the harder it is, like the more lonely it gets. And that's also important to know. And I talk about, I don't know, you guys can chime in, but in the first like 2 years of my business, I lost so many friends just because they were friends with me when I hated my job, when I wasn't making money. And the second that I was successful, they just didn't really get it. And I no longer gave a shit about the break room talk. You know what I mean? I didn't care about the I hate my boss talk. And I had to really find new entrepreneur friends, and that's challenging. And if anyone's listening, like, I don't know where to go. I mean, literally Facebook groups, there's so many local groups, whatever city you are in, there are places to go, because everyone on this podcast, like it's somehow like connected on accident. Like, it's not like, oh, if you want to meet Jason, meet him here at this place. Like you just kind of start connecting and you grow together. And, most of my friends, and you guys can probably relate, are in other states. And it requires plane tickets and things like that. But it's also really, really helpful, because I know at the end of the day, if I want to call somebody and talk or whatever, they get it. And dating gets harder too, because then you don't really know if you want to be with somebody who doesn't get it, because you don't want to explain it to them, right? So
don't even open that fucking can of worms on here right now.
I'll open the dating can of worms anytime in here. Same. I was looking at John's nails, actually, not his ring, but just kidding.
Yeah, lack of ring.
I'll actually say this. I really didn't have that problem. I'm usually terrible at having friends, but when I get friends, I keep them. I'm really good at that. I think as you get older, you have to learn to cultivate your friendships. I have a really amazing guy group here in Nashville. We get together. Jason's been here before. We'll do fun ass shit from like bar golf to shooting together. We're thinking about doing whitewater rapids. We have a guys trip we do to Florida yearly. So I think it's just really like I pioneer that. I enjoy making sure a bunch of guys who are entrepreneurs in different fields take time to get together and bullshit and blow some steam off privately. So I think if people in this industry, when you become an entrepreneur, it's a great opportunity to recultivate your friendship actually. And a lot of that friendship really becomes your network and your net worth. So that's how I would tie up all that point right there.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
So just to kind of give a final piece of advice, because, we didn't talk about it a ton, but there's so much information out there from business coaches and gurus and all of that. And I'm curious to know what you're all seeing that you're kind of like, that doesn't really make sense to me. If there's anything you're seeing or trending, I'm also curious, has anyone ever slid in your DMs trying to coach you? Has any business coach ever
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All the time.
So good. When you offer me leads for my gym, I'm always like, well, what do you do if I'm already getting 150 a month? And they're like, well, that's great. I can add another 20. I'm like, well, that's fucking bullshit. Why would I work around with you? Give me razor blades. I'd rather masturbate with them than have that conversation.
Yeah, I've had a few hit me up and say, I can help you scale to 100K.
Yeah.
I'm like, a year? Like a year? And I'm just like,
are you like a month? What are we talking about?
Yeah, wrong audience. That's funny.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious because it's probably not in your feed. And, one of the best things that I did is I don't like to get information from a million different places. And when I have a mentor, I'm following that mentor only. I'm not following a million other business coaches. And I think that's where people go wrong is they're just getting so much information. Like if you have a mentor, latch onto them, go all in, follow that guidance. But I think we get so caught up with comparing where we're at, our day 300 to somebody's day, 5,000. And that's challenging. And I think business is portrayed as like so easy. With Lamborghinis and Rolex watches and first class flights. And I think that's what I see in the business coaching space is that it's just so fast. And then people feel so defeated 3 months in when they don't have a 10K month.
Exactly. Yeah. That whole like rush thing. I think you're right. I don't know if I have a ton of business coaches on my feed. I see your stuff and I see, the Duggar stuff. And I know, I guess Bedros is a business coach or some sort of mentor. Here's my stance. I haven't really seen any trends that really bother me. But I think that at first I didn't really understand it because at least I didn't think I had that. And I was like, why does someone need a business coach to start an online business? But it's a totally different time than when I started mine. It's way more saturated. And so I do believe that it's very helpful. And then once I sat and thought about it, I had a business mentor. I just got paid. I was a lawyer for a business owner who had 30 businesses, and I got to go to work every day and got paid 6 figures to work on his shit. I watched him start a brewery. I filed all the trademarks. I filed the LLC. I reviewed all the paperwork when he bought commercial property. I was getting an education making 6 figures. So I think everyone who wants to get ahead should have a business mentor or a business coach. I do. And I think I was short-sighted in realizing that shit, I had that for 15 years. It's just, I got paid by the person to sit there and soak up his knowledge. So I was just very blessed. So
it's real easy to see through. It's just
that?
real easy to see through a lot of the stuff that's out there, whether it's on YouTube. YouTube's huge, obviously, and it's growing like crazy. You type in one business coach or one whoever, and like I said, I don't know Hormozy, but I'll just use him as an example because he's popular in the fitness industry, right? And then you see all these, then the algorithm starts feeding you all these different people, right? And then the thing is, you can start to dissect who people are in one simple way. What have they built successfully? And you need to find people, if you want to learn from them, consume their content, that have built the same thing that you're trying to build. It's really that simple. And it's why, we do one-on-one. I do one-on-one coaching and mentorship. People that need to buy a gym, grow it, sell it, whatever they want to do. If they want to learn how to read labs, they want to scale their coaching business, all those things I help with. But it's because I've done them all and I've built them all. Right. So like, I'm not going to help somebody build a
John, are you
giant.
doing that monthly or are you doing it like in a 6-month package? I'm curious.
Multiple. Yeah. Like if you do
Either.
6 months paid in full, it's cheaper. If you do, session by session, it's more expensive. So I give people a discount, but I just do one-on-one instead of like the big classroom setting. And I limit it to 5 people a week. So literally 5 hours, because all my attention can go to them, but I charge a decent little price for it.
Yeah.
But I like that. And I only bring people on where I can help them do the exact things that I've already done, and I can give them value and they go out and spread the word for me. So that's the thing. That's how you see through people that are putting out all this content. What have they built? If they built a giant social media following, is that really a business coach that you want to take advice from? If you want to grow your social, it is. But if you want to do anything else in the business world, if all they've done is grown a social following, how's that going to help you outside of the social media piece? You know what I mean?
Yep. Agreed. Run ads, right? That's what everyone says. Just run some ads. Just kidding. Save your money. Please save your money. Please save your money. I had somebody the other day ask me how I was making 7 figures because I had such low engagement. And I said, well, you should see my DMs. So I don't know. It's just, I think we have this idea, or they were like, how is your engagement so low if your content is like this high quality? I'm like, again, engagement, like I think people are really chasing followers, vanity metrics, likes, all that shit. Like that doesn't build your business. I've literally never had a client go viral that made money from it. It just brings in like unwanted stuff. Like you may have a collaboration post that brings in new followers that then brings you sales. That's more of like an intentional kind of a thing, but chasing the wrong thing is not what we want to do. But final question for everyone, roundtable style. I'm going to have Jeff kick it off. Give me one piece of unfiltered, spicy advice for coaches listening to this. I don't care what the topic is.
Oh, God, why do I have to start with this? This is like,
I got one. If you need to
Let's
think
go.
for a
John,
minute.
hit it.
The number one thing people can always do, always do, that's never, ever, ever going to fail you if you're a coach trying to attract clients. You have to work on your physique. You have to walk around looking like your clients want to look or better. And if you look better, that's even better for you, because here's the thing. I don't have an amazing physique, but most of the people hire me, they would love to look like I do. Jason's physique blows us all away. It's next level and above and beyond. He's going to attract even more people than I am, right? And that's the base. Jeff's the same way, it's the base of everything we do is in the gym. We can always work on ourselves. We can always improve ourselves, because we are literally the walking billboard that's going to attract people to come ask you questions in your DMs when you're posting a picture in your updates, whether it's me fixing my cholesterol or running keto, or hey, here's an update, just trying to hang in there with all you young pups. Like, people ask me questions because they're like, damn, Gorman's done pretty good. He writes diets for people. I'm going to ask him questions. It's your number one way. It's how I got started in 2008, 9, and 10, posting pictures on Facebook, skinny Gorman, getting ready for a show. And people are like, damn, this guy, he lives it. And that attracts people. So it's the number one thing people can do. And I see way too many people that just look average and mediocre. Outside of bad genetics, I get it. Not everybody can look like a freaking IFBB pro, but you can still look your best. And a lot of people, they're a little soft in that area. So that's the thing I would say. You can't get away from that. It's the number one thing that you can do.
Well, there's a lot of coaches that are jumping in that are like coaching food freedom or whatever, but they're still binging on the weekends themselves. Like, do you know what I mean? That's what I see more often. It's like, you haven't fixed your shit. Like, we all understand what you're like. For example, my hormones were not great and adrenals weren't great. I obviously gained a lot of weight. That wasn't because I was eating pizza every night. You know what I mean? So like, I think there's a difference in like that, but I totally get what you're saying. Like, if I'm coaching business and my business is failing, how am I going to succeed?
if I go backwards, Jason, and ask you real quick, in 2007 and 8, when you were on the boards, you were working with Mark and like things were starting to click, but you were posting pictures and you're doing all, how important was that to you getting your first clients and then just taking that and run with it? And then how was that with you adding clients over the next 5 years just to get started?
It was everything at that point in time because I had information that others wanted. I wasn't charging much at all for it. And people knew that I already was willing to help because I was on that fucking board answering questions nonstop for free. So it was massive, those times in my career.
But your physique is what I'm saying. Your physique stood out
Right.
because you were literally like a walking billboard of what everyone wanted to try and do. Like that was super important. But if you had just been average, mediocre, we might not be sitting here talking,
That's true. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
All right, spicy business advice.
Jay, you gonna go?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go. I don't know if it's
I'll go. I'll tell you what, Jay, I'll go real quick. All right. For the first time, you will see if you look at the earnings yesterday, Taco Bell, this is May 2nd. So Taco Bell, Starbucks, all them started showing that the consumer pullback is real. Planet Fitness announced their first quarter earnings. They flatlined for the first time ever as a company after quarter one. They blamed it on Ozempic. Costco just signed a massive deal with Wegovy, where you could go to Costco with Sesame and get Wegovy. So I'm going to say some spicy advice to what Jason said. When you're going to sit out there and be on the internet, be a little bitch and just cry about semaglutide and what's doing, how about you understand these fucking people are still going to do it, educate yourself, and then sell them a plan to help them on the shit that they don't know anything about that the doctors don't. That might be some fucking strategic, brilliant advice for you all. That's advice for today. Because, I mean, in all honesty, it's here to stay. And if Planet Fitness, biggest motherfucker in the industry, comes out and says, this flatlined us, there is some truth to that. That means the trickle down that you saw in the economy with the businesses and the restaurants will eventually hit the coaches. If it hit Planet Fitness first, it's eventually going to work its way down the hole. So you better pucker up your assholes and get ready because something deep's really coming. And those who know their shit are gonna rise to the top. So you better learn and tune out any preconceived notions of what you know, because that's not coaching. That is being a hypocrite.
Truth.
Yeah. It has to be business. You want business advice, right?
Yeah, just for people that are growing their business. Yeah.
Yeah. So, this goes with education, but I think that it's important that you surround yourself by people that are more intelligent than you are.
Yeah.
I think some people are intimidated by that, but one thing that I've never had a problem doing was knowing what my limitations are and then surrounding myself with people that have the things that I don't have. So, for instance, I know that I'm more of an idea guy than I am an executor. Had I not, at the time, my ex-wife was more of an executor. I was an idea guy. Slintrol May never got off the ground. It was on a piece of paper, and I was like, well, I got to call an manufacturer, and this is a pain in the ass, and I'm trying to coach, and I got this law job. And she was like, just give me a piece of paper and get it done. Surround yourself by people that are really good at shit that you're not, and that will help you get further than anything else. And don't think that that is a knock on yourself, but it will be somewhere you got to put your ego away. I guess it's self-awareness, but you really need to know yourself as you're going through business.
We're on the same page. I was going to say, one of the things that I like to remind people of is if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
Like I cannot say that enough. And then I think the final thing is just stay quiet as you're building your business. I think that we get a false sense. We get that dopamine hit when we say like, I'm going to make 10K. Like when we say it out loud, it's almost like when we announce those things, we've already gotten that dopamine hit of doing the thing sometimes. And so I think just like stay quiet and hustle, because ultimately you're not doing this business for other people. You're doing it for you. Right. And so I think that we just get very quick to, like I said, chasing the numbers and not the impact, chasing the wrong things. Like, I think if I had to summarize best piece of advice, it's really figure out how your business is going to support you, because your business is an extension of you. If you build a business and you hate your life, you fucked up somewhere along the way. You know what I mean? Like, so that's where I'll leave it. Obviously all of your information is linked in the show notes, and thanks for hanging out with me, y'all. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's
Fun.
awesome. Fun.
Thank you.
Anytime.